First thing I want to do today is just, if you could put your hands together for being here. Manufacturing matters so much, and I am grateful that you guys care about it as much as I do, and maybe even more so. So this is for you to start. Welcome back to the Gunn Show, my friends. This is the VIP edition. Secondly, I want to thank Kevin because he suckered you all into being here by feeding you lunch. So whether you wanted to listen to me talk or not, well, we're feeding you. So I think drinks are coming next, Kevin. Is that true? That's how we keep them here? We're giving them drinks after? I like that. Another thing I'd like to bring up is I've been asked a few times about what I'm going to talk about today. And I told everyone I don't know. The conference is the state of manufacturing. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about manufacturing. And I do actually have a PowerPoint that I will not bore you with, but it will give me guidelines of how this thing should go, and hopefully we'll have a little fun here today. Something that you may not know about me and what I feel about manufacturing is that it is fun. It is often considered invisible, but it is fun. And there's a lot of really awesome people in this industry. We're just kind of traditional, right? We're I won't say stuck in our ways, but we like our ways. And so marketing, talking about ourselves, sharing our story, getting excited. A lot of introverted, brilliant engineers that I've worked with, that's not their style. And they're a lot smarter than me, and I would rather have them up here than me today, except I talk too much. And so people like Kevin invite me to their stages to share my story, and I have a story, and I do learn a lot about manufacturing for traveling the world over the last 15 years and traveling to over 80 countries and every single U.S. state minus New Mexico. I'll be there soon. And I get to see a lot and learn a lot. So I want to do the very best that I can today, in the future, and hopefully a few years running now, to make this fun and exciting and inspiring and everything that a lot of folks internally keep inside and go, I love this industry, I like to externally share it. Now, sometimes that takes a shot at tequila, and sometimes it's just a strong night of sleep. I don't know. But I didn't have either today, so we'll find out what happens. By a show of hands, I like to kind of be interactive as well, so I'll see if I can make this somewhat interactive. By a show of hands, how many people know me? And please be honest, because a no is a great answer. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you for the ones who raised your hands, and I'm happy to know you as well. I've been into a lot of machine shops around the world. The reason I ask that question is because when I sit down and I listen to people speak, I kind of want to know why they're talking to me, right? What gives them the credibility to share their story with me, and what potentially can I learn from them? So this isn't about me. This will be about manufacturing, and I have a clicker here that's going to take us through reshoring, how we can do it, skills shortage, labor shortage, nearshoring as well, some of what I've seen technology around the world and how to adapt it. But before I get there, I want to share a little bit of a foundation about who I am, how I got here, and why maybe a little bit of listening to go along with the delicious food could be beneficial today, just maybe. So my name is Tony Gunn. I accidentally got into manufacturing around the year 2000, and I say accidentally because I am one of those cliche stories of barely graduating high school, getting kicked out of 3 colleges, didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and fell into manufacturing because I knew someone that knew someone. They said, you know what? We think we have a job for you. It has good insurance. I didn't have any skills. I was a lifeguard, for crying out loud. I was a lifeguard for 7 years. Didn't know anything about manufacturing, and this will come back full circle as well because I didn't know anything about manufacturing, even though I was in every vocational class in my high school. It was the only thing I was good at, and yet no machines. What does that actually mean for all the offshoring that we did, which we'll come to later? Well, I didn't know anything about manufacturing because it didn't exist in my school. We didn't have CNCs, not manual, not any kind of, we worked on engines a little bit and great at horticulture. I was in the FFA for all 5 years of high school. And if you hear me say 5 years and most of you had 4, our 8th grade was actually in the high school. I didn't fail, but I did drop out my junior year and had to go to summer school in order to graduate on time. So there is part of that story. But I didn't know anything about manufacturing. And so I went in and I ran a hydraulic press. 2 buttons on either side. I share this story semi-often. 2 buttons on either side. Plexiglass comes down, punches a hole in something. The company I worked for was a precious metals company. So it was a refining plant, melted down gold, platinum, silver, really cool stuff, right? So that was my first job, and it wasn't, I can't even remember really, maybe $6 an hour, $6.50, something like that. And so I mopped floors, I swept, I worked overtime. We hear a lot of stories these days, and I was just talking with a friend from SME, and he said, we need to find a new way to invigorate the youth on how to get excited about manufacturing. And I bring that up because I was mopping floors, and I'm going to get to the point of where I am today in just a minute, but I was mopping floors. But so many of us, because of social media, go, I see that success story, I want to be that now. It doesn't work like that. But we do need to consider how we can make it exciting for the youth coming in. Some of that's automation, lots of video games around. Some of that's AI, some of that's additive manufacturing, the cool stuff. But there are some really incredible people who are still tinkerers that are working on their four-wheelers and their bikes and their motorcycles and want that hands-on, tangible, turning raw materials into something sexy, worth something that can help people as well. The medical field, defense. I mean, my buddy Salim's here today. We talk about that a lot. So I bring that up because I didn't start at the top. I didn't start with a silver spoon. I didn't start knowing anything, so I mopped floors. Well, where did that take me? Within 12 years, worked at 3 machine shops. Within that time, I had several patents, director of many company improvement committees, ran hundreds of programs, hundreds of machines, went from woodworking and precious metals and more of your standard materials. So 12 years as a machinist. I learned a lot, but if I'm being honest, I only knew what I knew. I worked in my machine shop. I knew what I could make. I knew what I could do. The patents came from the rings that I made in the jewelry department. I knew the machines I was running. I knew my Omniterms and my Haas's and my Emco Myers and somewhat limited based on the factories I was working in, the shops I was working, a 4-acre woodworking facility. C.R. Andrud was in there. We had sanding lines, but I only knew what I knew. And I think that's worth understanding today because I love Texas. I was listening to some of the speakers earlier today. I know you love Texas. Texas means a lot to Texans. I realize that. And I come from Florida. I think we're cousins. I live in Florida now, so I think Florida and Texas are cousins. Hopefully we can relate there and I don't get booed off stage because I don't live here in Texas. But I realize that it matters a lot to you. But what I also realize is that not everyone has the opportunity all the time to see what the world is doing. And that's kind of what I want to bring to this state of manufacturing today is after I got out of manufacturing, I then became a consultant for a high-speed technology, which allowed me to work with not all would be all. Let's just say a lot of head engineers at many of the exotic places everyone throws out. You throw out the names, SpaceX, Apple, Google, Tesla, Samsung, Nike, Boeing. I mean, all these places I've been into. I've worked with their head engineers. I've spent time feeling really dumb in rooms with brilliant engineers that are way smarter than me, but learning from them. And I had that opportunity. And in the 10 years as an international consultant, I started to learn what I didn't know. I started to realize that there's so much to manufacturing that when I thought I knew a technology, another one came out the next day. When I thought I knew I was doing the best I could, which was true, the best I could, there was something more to be learned. And I absorbed so much information as quickly as possible. A lot of it falls out, I'm not gonna lie. I can't remember it all. That's what notes are for, that's what friends are for. And a lot of it falls out, but a lot of it sticks. And that's kind of what I want to bring today is over 80 countries in 10 years, every U.S. state, minus New Mexico, and that'll change in February, guaranteed, already on the calendar, and working in all of the top manufacturing facilities around the world for this amount of time. What have I seen? What have I implemented? Where have I failed? What are those successes? What have I seen that can allow us to do better here in the U.S.? We have buzzwords, and so many people are talking about the buzzwords. What are they? Reshoring, nearshoring, labor shortage, skills gap. These are things that are so very important because we did not do a great job over the last, say, 20, 30, 40 years of keeping manufacturing in the U.S. And we're realizing that now. I think of it a little bit like plastic, actually. Plastic's amazing. It allowed us to make the bottle that's sitting there right now as convenient as can be, but it's not biodegradable in most cases, is it? So manufacturing, we offshored. We didn't realize how important it was until it was gone. And we're like, holy shit, we need this back. How do we get it back? We've now removed it from our schools. We have a generation gap where we're getting ready to lose all of the traditional tribal knowledge from the silver-haired guys and gals out there that we love, and the generation that would rather sit on a computer and play video games. What the heck do we do, right? I haven't even clicked a slide yet and I'm talking too much. What the heck do we do? So how did I get to the Director of Global Operations for the world's most popular news and media channel in manufacturing, MTDCNC? 10 years of a consultant, and COVID hit. You may have heard of that thing. We'll just breeze by it. It wasn't a big deal, was it? It was for some, and I don't want to, I'm just jest if I've offended anyone. But what I did is I don't do a whole lot of stress, worry, anxiety, and fear, right? So I, at that time, was working, as I mentioned, traveling a ton. And I wasn't able to travel anymore. I got sent to my bedroom, sit in the corner, couldn't travel. All I could do was computer work. And I didn't feel like that was respectful or responsible based on my position. So I told my company, I am going to take a 50% wage because I can't do the majority of my job, or at least half of my job of traveling. And I'm going to pick up another job with another company and help them build distributorships, which I ended up doing in about 18 countries in about 8 months. But I took a 50% wage from both of these places because I couldn't travel, and that was respectful based on what was going on at that time. But as I mentioned, I don't do stress, worry, fear, anxiety. And that was also when we started looking at each other and going, when's this going to end? What's our profits? Are we going to lose companies? Are we going to lose people? We started looking at each other as numbers instead of the human aspect that I love. I love people. I love everyone that's in this room supporting manufacturing. And because that was somewhat stressful, I respectfully put all my stuff into storage, quit those jobs, and went backpacking through Mexico. Backpacking through Mexico for several months, cleared my spirit, cleared my soul, helped me think clearly what was going to be my next step, and that was when MTDCNC reached out and said, Tony, would you mind joining us in the UK? Because this company is based in the UK, started in 2007. Would you mind joining us in the UK and helping us make this the true global channel we want it to be based on your travels and experience? I said, you mean I get to help everyone in manufacturing? Hell yeah. Well, at least as many people as want me to, right? With my big mouth and limited education. But hell yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So I took on the job, and we've now since brought on, we have representation in Europe, in Middle East, in Asia, in India. We have the only Spanish-speaking channel to support Latin America, and of course dominate in the North American channel as well, which allows everyone to receive information on their time. And we always support shows like this. Kevin, might I just say, as a little segue, I do a lot of associations and I do a lot of trade shows, and this is the combination of both. Very, very clever. So keep it weird, Austin. I like that. Keep it weird. The combination of a trade show and a conference at the same time. And a year from now, you're going to do 2 days. And I hope to be drinking with you on October 1st, 2025 for maybe a keynote on the 20th. No, we wouldn't do that. That'd be a hangover waiting to happen. We're not doing that. But I am excited for the growth here. And I'm excited to see that you guys do things a little bit differently. And I'm excited to see a trade show and a conference all brought into one. So why are we here? Enough rambling about me. Offshoring. We did it. Yeah, we did it. We did it for a while. We thought it'd be great to get cheap products. And what was really cool about this time, honestly, looking back on it and knowing that I started around 2000 and my machining career was from 2000 to 2012, what was really cool about it is we stayed creative. We stayed resilient. We still, even though the Apple phones were being made in other places, which I've actually been to, with 50,000 robo-drills in one spot. It's like a hall of mirrors. We stayed creative. We stayed making things. We just wanted to do it cheaper, right? And we got into a lot of tech, really. We got into a lot of consumerism. We love buying things, but you got to make things and have a job and create income in order to buy things as well. But very consumerism, right? So we offshored, and we offshored to a lot of places, and we did it for a while. We're now regretting it. I think we're regretting it. Kevin mentioned this earlier this morning in the opener for those who weren't in here. He said that we offshored everything, but again, back to COVID, that little thing called COVID happened. We started to realize there's some giant ponds in between of us. and we weren't able to get some of the things we desperately needed immediately.
At EBITDA Growth Systems, we guarantee to double your value in 3 years. Well, instead of telling you about a guarantee, how about if I tell you a story? We had a shop owner come to us at an event saying, I'm not sure if you can help us. He said, we have our credit lines maxed out in our business. I have a second mortgage on my home, it's maxed out. I'm not sure what to do. I have a payroll coming up next week and I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Can you help us? We said we weren't sure, so we came in and we came alongside of him. In 18 months, he went from not having any money to having over $800,000 in the bank and having a 6 times exit what his value was at that day. And now he's living a life that he always dreamed of with his family. And it's fantastic, and that's what's really rewarding for us, and that's what EBITDA Growth Systems is all about. If you want to know more about EBITDA Growth Systems, go to www.ebitagrowthsystems.com, EBITDA growthsystems.com, and go to our contact page where I will reach out to you personally.
I have a friend called Harry Moser. Some of you might know that young man. He was talking about reshoring for 10 years before COVID and got almost zero traction, and nobody was, not nobody again, extremists, always talking extremes. A lot of people weren't listening. Then COVID hit and the struggles were real, and instantly his Reshoring Initiative took off. But we offshored everything. We offshored it for convenience. We offshored it for many, many, many reasons. Let's see if I can switch this thing. So where did it go? I think percentage-wise, China is our answer to that question. And we have other folks on there, and Mexico's on there, and I'm going to talk about nearshoring in a little bit, but most of it went to China. Some to India, some to Vietnam, some to Malaysia, Indonesia. You know, I've been to all these countries. Thailand is another big one. If you know, I'm not sure if you do or not, but if you pay attention to the world's manufacturing economy, the top 11 through about 17 countries in the world of manufacturing actually are all in the Asian Pacific. Your Singapores, your Malaysias, your Indonesias, your Thailands, your Vietnams, your Philippines, they all sit right there, and it's majority because that's where everyone offshored to. It's interesting that we did that, but I would say maybe if I'm going to be empathetic or sympathetic, maybe it was a responsible idea at the time. I think a lot of people would disagree with me on that, that it was responsible because of where we are today. But I think a lot of us make decisions and learn from those decisions with 20/20 hindsight. Again, I was just talking to someone out in the exhibition out there, and we said, and it was Alex actually, he said, you know, the person I was 5 years ago, I probably would disagree with that person based on what I know now. Does that make me a hypocrite? Maybe. I don't know. But I'm learning every day. And I hope that we're all strong enough to see when we've grown within ourselves, to say, I've done something incorrectly, and I would like to do better moving forward, instead of sticking by what we've done and saying, we must repeat this because we did it that way, and I must dig my feet in the sand and continue to make it work. Manufacturing employment has declined since 1970. The good news is it's stabilized since what we're calling the Great Recession here around 2009, 2010. But it's not really gone up. And I think it's up to everyone in this room and everyone in this country to help it go up, but we need to figure out how. And we're going to work on that conversation a little bit later. But it went down. And we all know it went down. It was obvious it went down. For my silver-haired friends who are going to be leaving our industry soon, you saw it. You saw it, and by the millions. Cheap labor. Cheap labor is why we did it. There's some of the bullet points I was just talking about. I don't want to get too close to these speakers because I think it'll make a funny noise, but China's number one. And a lot of that, let me ask you a question real quick. And I would like to have a show of hands if it's okay. And this is a little bit, it's on the topic, but a little bit different from where I'm going with this. By a show of hands, if you're not putting food in your mouth at this very, very moment, if we reshored everything right now, do we have the infrastructure to take it on? How many believe that we do? That's a good answer. That's a good no show of hands. We do not. A lot of us would like to believe that we do, and we are reshoring a lot, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. But we do not currently. We are, as we are right now, every shop that I go into, and I've been into I don't know, maybe thousands of shops at this time, certainly hundreds. It says, can you make me a video and help me find some good employees? We're hiring, I can't find anyone. Yeah, well, talking to the choir. That's the story for except for where were we yesterday at Tico, right? Tico says, actually, we're doing really good right now. Good for you guys, I like that. But as a general rule, most people are looking for labor. The hidden cost of onshoring, I'm not sure it's so hidden, to be honest. And what I want to focus on here with this graphic is the skills gap and what manufacturing can bring to the children. Just had a conversation about these amazing folks going around the country right now speaking to the youth and saying, get into manufacturing. It's fun, it's exciting, it's intoxicating. It can bring you joy to your life. And the response is almost every single guidance counselor and parent says, go to college. If you don't go to college, you're not going to have a job. You're not going to have a career, at least not a good one. You're not going to make any money. Maybe if you own a machine shop, but not as a machinist. You got to go get a degree. You got to go get that 6 figures in debt because that piece of paper will get you a job. And please do not let me condemn anyone who decided to go to university because it can also be very wise. But a lot of people out there with that document aren't actually utilizing that document. They are doing other things with it, but they do have that piece of paperwork that gets them in. Why do I bring that up? Did you know currently, and we need to tell the parents of these kids need to know that the ROI of going to trade school, and not just the immediate refund of, a lot of people are paying for trades, but the entire career of a person until retirement has a better ROI than a university, as a general rule. Our parents need to understand that. The parents of our kids need to understand you can go to a trade school right now, and from, let's say, 20 to 65, there is a better return on your investment of how much money you will make versus how much money you will spend on the general workforce degree. Machining, engineering, that kind of thing, through the trades. And I do include trades as welders and painters and electricians and plumbers and all these necessities that we said, I don't want to do that. I want to go sit at a computer. And again, when I say things like that, I do not want to demonize the people who are working on computers because I use my computer every day. I'm using it right now and I still need you. I'm just saying, let's get excited about manufacturing. Thank you. Please come closer. I need you more in my life. But that is the truth. And more students are going to trade school since 2014. So what does that mean to me as far as us doing our job? We're getting there. We're getting there. But have you guys heard of what this thing called a flex schedule? I never had a flex schedule when I was in a machine shop. I never had a flex schedule ever, actually. But flex schedule became real popular again during this thing called COVID. I can go into work, I can come work from home, and yada, yada, yada. Also, what are the D's of automation? Does anyone know the D's of automation? Dull, dirty, dangerous, and now dainty. We've got 4 D's now instead of 3. Dull, dirty, dangerous, and dainty. Well, a lot of the youth go, I don't want to get dirty. It looks too dangerous. It's so boring. Or dainty. I don't know how to throw that one in there. I don't have a good cliche or joke for that one. But those are the 4 Ds. Well, automation is helping with that. Automation is helping with the skills shortage and also removing some of what the youth might not get excited about in manufacturing. And again, we were at Tico yesterday, and we made an awesome video at Tico Westinghouse. An awesome video talking to the people who truly still love to work with their hands. And I'm one of those. I love working with my hands. So we do have that. But I would make the discussion that a lot of these kids who were born with technology in their hand, which my age group, I had a pager, and then I remember the big freaking car phone, and then the first flip phone, and then a smartphone. I was like, this is incredible. But they were born with the coolest of smartphones. And so a lot of this, let's just say, in my opinion, from what I've seen, it's a different version of a work ethic in a lot of kids. It doesn't mean they're not willing to work, and I know that's a discussion all in its own, and maybe it's a completely separate keynote. But I don't think it's an unwillingness to work. It's a difference in how to go into work. So in knowing that, how do we attract? How do we keep? How do we make the next generation of machinists and engineers want to stay and thrive and love and share with their friends and inspire their parents to see that what they're doing is beneficial? Because between you, myself, the air, what hasn't been touched by manufacturing in this building? It's not a whole lot. I'd be willing to bet, just like Kevin Bacon, the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, that within 7 degrees it's been touched by manufacturing. And I pose to you, and any parent outside of here, because we're recording this right now, and we're going to share this to well over 500,000 people on our channel as well, and some parents outside of manufacturing will see this. I pose to you, what does this country and what does this world look like without manufacturing? I'm getting older. I got a ton of soccer injuries. I didn't even share that part about almost being a professional soccer player. But I'm really grateful that medical's getting better. I don't want to go into surgery for a month. I've already had knee surgery twice. It's not great. I am really grateful that every time I am, here's a fun little story. Some people can relate in here. I'm really grateful for the conveniences that are in my life that once were not there. One easy one to think about. When I was a kid, we had 6 channels on the TV. You know how we changed those channels? We got up off our butts and turned the channels like this. Doop, doop, doop. And we had to move the rabbit ears and make it work. Well, then we made a remote. How about that? Then I moved every year of my life from 17 years old to 32 years old. Every single year moved into a new house. Do you remember how big the TVs were? Gosh, that was a gym all on its own, right? Well, then the TVs got smaller. And these are just small examples of manufacturing making life more convenient. Satellites, airplanes, thank goodness they're safer as much as I'm flying. Automobiles, being safer, being more convenient. We're now trying to focus on a little bit of being green and eco-friendly. And I know here in Texas, that's a big debate in itself because what's better, what's worse? I'm not getting into that today. I like it all. But it is a discussion, and it is important to discuss. The point of what I'm saying is that manufacturing touches everything around us, and it makes our lives easier. And I say this because anytime when you walk into a conversation, anyone who's here, and you're with, say, your peers out there, and you ask about your kids or what you're into. I'm big into this right now. Hey, what? Your kids are in college right now. What are they doing? Oh, my kid's going to be a lawyer. That's incredible. Great. Maybe Alex doesn't agree, but I'm going to be a lawyer. That's great. You agree, right? Right, Alex? Of course you do. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to save people. I want everyone in this room and everyone you speak to be equally as proud when you say, I am a machinist. I am in manufacturing, and we make everything here. Is your life difficult? We're going to make it easy for you. Is your family in some sort of way suffering? Let's say you can't see, you can't hear, you can't walk. Manufacturing is going to make that easier. You having trouble getting around? Manufacturing is going to make that easier. I want you all to be so proud of what you do. No longer is this an invisible industry that people don't talk about. Let's talk about it. Let's be excited about it. One thing we have done very poorly in manufacturing is advertise ourselves because, as a general rule, we're salt of the earth. We're humble. We're brilliant. A lot of introverts that just like to make things and tinker with things. And I started this off with my big mouth, and that I am surrounded oftentimes with people a lot smarter than me. And I also mentioned the current role that I'm in this media channel. I got to be honest with you guys. If I was just laying in my bed today and somebody said, hey, do you want to go be on stage and talk to hundreds, maybe thousands of people or 500,000 online? I would say, no, thank you. Did you know the biggest fear in the world of the majority of human beings is public speaking and public nudity? Why am I here right now? And I'm not naked, thank goodness. I feel like it is my responsibility because I care so much about the people in this industry, so much about this industry, that just cannot, not just not willing to, but cannot be on this stage to share their stories. It is my responsibility to do so for them. And that's why we're here. And that goes into all of us have a part to play. All of us are important. All of us are significant. And if you ever doubt that, look in the mirror and just remind yourself, this matters, I matter, and I'm going to tell people about it. And I'm going to tell the parents about it, and I'm going to tell the kids about it, because we make every damn thing around us. That's important for everyone to understand. I'm going to get back to this PowerPoint a little bit, just because I like to ramble. Again, I told you at the beginning of this, somebody said, what are you going to talk about today? I don't know. I talk a lot. We're going to figure that out. The skills gap crisis. By a raise of hands of machine shop owners, managers, or people just know the industry, how many have heard, I need to find skilled labor? Anyone? Yeah, the majority of people. And thank you for participating in the immersive experience. How do we fix it? How do we fix it? I got some ideas. I got some good ideas, I think. Of course, I tell myself that all the time, and about 1 out of 10 actually work. But skills workers needed. According to this, 67% reported a moderate to severe shortage of available qualified workers. There are several ways to combat this. I think automation is one of the first things that pops up. It's the quickest, though maybe not always financially easy. And also, there's a lot of shops out there that cannot adapt to automation. I'm going to do a quick segue about automation itself before I get back to the skill shortage. And it's just a piece of knowledge, which a lot of you may already know. Automation, when it first came out, it spoke to most people as in order to automate, I need to have tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of pieces of work coming in order to be financially responsible to implement automation into my facility. I think a lot of people felt that way in the beginning, and maybe even still now. I can't automate because I'm a job shop. I get 5, 10, 20, 30. A big job would be 30 to 100 pieces, right? Well, that is true for some of the robot cells that have the fencing, the protective guides, and they're really set up to rapidly repeat over and over and over again. You think of an automotive facility, which I believe Tesla is in town, so congratulations to you guys. That is true. But how many of you pay attention to things like bar feeders and pallet chain systems, cobots? How easy cobots are to switch from machine to machine, how easy it is to reprogram a bar feed to do multiple different jobs, how easy it is to set up pallet change systems to allow you to actually do high mix, low volume, single job operations and hot jobs. Did you know a pallet change system, any company you choose to work with, pallet change system, so long as it works well, allows you to do, let's say you have 40 pallets. You can do 40 of one job. You can do 40 different jobs. You can do 39 of the same job, and then a hot job comes in. You can knock that out, make a ton of money, and move on with your life. Automation now allows you to effectively battle the labor shortage. That's one way. Education is another way. We're all kind of taking that in different directions. I would love, and I'm not sure, Kevin, I'm not sure, I mean, you're an association guy. I'm going to be in another association in just a couple of weeks. I have said on my podcast several times, I may have actually thrown people under the bus on accident. I didn't mean to. But several times for thousands and thousands of people to see. Why can't we come together as an industry and, I don't know, let's say every machine shop dedicates $1,000 per year, which is almost nothing, and says, we're going to hire the top 5 motivational manufacturing thought leaders across the board, these young kids, these Gen Xers, even the wisdom of the older generation, the boomers, and say, we're going to hire 5 of these folks with this $1,000 per machine shop and pay them to travel the country talking to not just the kids, but the parents as well. And in doing so, they will be inspired that once they graduate high school to go straight into machining, because a lot of us out there right now actually want someone that doesn't have any background, because you have to unlearn, and then relearn, and then retrain, and teach them how you do things. So a lot of people are coming right out of high school, or these kids go into their local trade schools, and you, as a manufacturing facility, get dibs on the first one that comes out because you spent money in that education process. Now you're getting the elite because you participated. $1,000, what's that? I mean, it's very little. Now, does that work? I don't know. Can we all come together to do that? I don't know. But I've said it out loud a few times, and if I repeat it a few times, maybe a couple people will agree. We'll find out. But there is a way, and we do need to attract. We are hiring. We just talked about that. We've talked about this a little bit too. Remember when let's just ask the question. I'm going to skip this slide because we've already talked about it. How many people here went to shop class by a raise of hands? Did you have shop in your schools? Okay. I don't want to make any judgments, but looking around, there is an age demographic of who had shop class. I would invite the students, the younger generation, to see if that's still. I remember as an athlete, I remember my shop while I was in middle school getting moved out for the football class gym. We moved the shop class out and brought a gym in. Football was way more important. We won a state championship. Don't get me wrong. This small little country town outside of Richmond, Virginia, we won a state championship, so I guess it worked. But no manufacturing. Not manufacturing. So I didn't want to stereotype, but I kind of knew that was going to be the case. Remember when shop class was a thing? No. The generations that are 40 and below, 35 and below, unless it's a very specific place. Like I just got it. Oh my gosh, we're getting ready to release these videos. I just spent time with the Lindbergh Foundation. If you remember the last name Lindbergh, the flight out of St. Louis, the Lindbergh Foundation, they have a high school in St. Louis, and one of the best STEM, and we're actually saying STEAM as well now to add in arts to that, but STEM facility I've seen in the entire country. So those kids are going to have an opportunity. And I'm seeing this in places. And I got to spend time with the Lindbergh Foundation and what they're doing. And we're sharing that. We even did an aerospace competition where the youth, these high school kids, built their own airplanes and flew them around. It was super cool. But as a general rule, no, we're not seeing it. We're not. Remember what was the thing? No, definitely not. Manufacturing is not your grandparents' industry. I'm not even sure really what that means. I say that because it in parts it still is, but I know what it means. It means that we're, again, removing the D's, dull, dirty, dangerous, dainty, allowing people to come in. Oh, something else I want to mention, and my buddy Salim and I, we were just talking about this. I want to go right back to the skills shortage real quick because I skipped over this and I think it's important to understand. I heard a stat one time that of all the population of women in the U.S., if we get 6% of them to believe in manufacturing, our labor shortage is done. Our skills gap is gone, 6%. If we can inspire that. What about diversity? What if we get more diverse? My buddy Drew Crow is a big advocate. I'm not sure how many people know Drew Crow, but big advocate of diversity. He himself was a teenage father and a felon at a young age. Spent time in jail. He now advocates for what manufacturing has done for his life. Brilliant young man. But what about veterans? We don't discuss that a whole lot. There are a lot of folks coming out of the military that could really use a quality job. And like my buddy Salim says, these guys are used to working. They're used to working with their hands. They like this stuff. They're not going to come in and whine about a flex schedule. They're going to come in and work their butts off for you. So these are some areas where we can immediately, again, automation, education of the youth, and applying our powers in diverse areas that haven't been yet fully, and I love, WIM. How many women in here are part of WIM Association? Anyone? Well, the women in here, if you get an opportunity, Kevin, they should also definitely be a part of ARMA, don't get me wrong. But the WIM Foundation, Women in Manufacturing, has gone from almost nothing to tens of thousands of women in manufacturing that you can connect on a daily basis with women who are like-minded, who are powerful, who have their own machine shops, and you can connect with them. So I highly recommend you checking that out. So I just kind of wanted to bring that back to a conversation we had, military veterans, education, women in manufacturing. 6%. Inspire your lady friends out there. We want you. And I think, so when I stand up here, and I'm even going to sit down for this part. When I stand up or sit down up here, I am the stereotype. I am the stereotype of manufacturing. So sometimes I cannot speak to people. I am the old white man saying the same thing and diversity is important, and women are important, and all of this is important. So how can I inspire people? Because one thing I've realized, if you've ever watched a commercial, ever seen a movie, ever seen a TV show, we resonate with what we see in ourselves and others. We resonate when we see someone that looks like us on stage, or looks like us in a crowd, or looks like us in a commercial. I'll buy something because you look like me. I can do, okay, cool. So there's only but so much I can do here, which is why I implore all of you who are willing to speak, who are willing to stand up, to participate and say, I can do this too. And this diversity matters. This diversity matters. So, manufacturing is not your grandparents' industry. What does that mean? I think what that is supposed to mean is we're no longer running a manual lathe, American Precision Museum. Anyone ever been to the American Precision Museum? Okay, well, we just made a video, an hour and 10-minute tour of the original Silicon Valley of where American precision manufacturing actually came to be in the middle of nowhere, Vermont. So I highly recommend you check that out. So why did that pop up in my brain? Well, manual machining, right? So they were doing some of those precise manufacturing over a century, 2 centuries ago on manual machines. And anyone who's ever run a manual machine like myself, you can feel the machine purr. You can feel when you're at the right depth of cut and the right chip load, right? You can feel it just hum with you. And a lot of folks who come in, they want to jump right into CAD CAM, and then we get this argument between the machinists and the designers. I can't make that cut. My software says you can. I can't. Okay, that's where machining manually comes into play. I can feel it, right? So I think that's what we mean by it's not your grandparents' industry. And that part of time, 50, 60, 70 years ago, 80 years ago even, it's a lot of manual work. What's the difference between now and then? I think this is obvious, cliche. Probably don't even ask that question out loud. It's time, really, right? It's time. We could make precision components based on what I saw at the American Precision Museum out in Vermont a couple centuries ago. Incredible. In fact, it inspired the whole world that they purchased 10,000 guns right after they saw it at this conference in the UK. And I want to say 1855, 1845, somewhere around there. So it was being done, but it was slower. And that, my friends, is how we also compete on a global scale and reshore everything is through time. If we can do it faster, if we can be productive, if we can do it efficiently and accurately. How many times does somebody invest in something up front because it's a lower cost without realizing the price per part? Or how many times do I need to do rework because my first work wasn't good? How much time and money is wasted there instead of saying, you know what, I will spend that extra $250,000, $500,000, $750,000 on that machine or that setup that's required to make sure that I'm getting the part off one and done in one right away so that I can compete on a global scale. I can even set up automation so that pick a company. I like Reshoring. I'm just going to say that one out loud, but I like them all. My Reshoring equator can do all of my measurements as soon as it comes off the machine. Now my one person can run 5 machines, do an automated measuring, and goes right into the box because my machine is a multitasking machine that works within microns. And through my programming set, I can go from a raw piece of material into a finished part, all done in one, then measured, then put into a box. Now, my one person can run multiple machines and I can compete on a global level at a price per part.
Hi everybody, Amy Teal, CEO and co-founder of Shop Floor Coffee, proudly a women-owned business that's supporting the manufacturing community.
Mike Franz, CIO, co-founder of Shop Floor Coffee. Thanks everybody for tuning in to check us out. Amy, tell us a little bit about Shop Floor Coffee.
So we're here to give back to the manufacturing community through purchases of coffee. So every purchase you make, we donate a portion of those proceeds back to help workforce development initiatives.
We can't tell you how much it means to us to help support the great manufacturing community. We've been involved with it for like 20 years, and we know there's issues around finding good people, finding people that really want to be involved in the industry, and we want to start by giving back to that, giving back to the programs, getting kids involved with these awesome programs. There's robotics, there's computer software, there's so many cool things involved with the industry that people just aren't aware of. We want to help raise that awareness by giving back in a little way that we can.
And really, we came up with the idea of shop floor coffee because there are two complaints on a shop floor. It's the coffee and the toilet paper. We can't do anything about the toilet paper, but we can help you get better tasting coffee on your shop floor while helping the community. So shopfloorcoffee.com, come visit us and support the community.
Far more important than the upfront cost of my machine. Now, you might say, I don't have the money, I need to work with an investor. I get it. There's lots of things that go into that, but as a general rule, if we can look at price per part and figure out how to reduce that cost, and we can do it accurately, effectively, efficiently, you will ultimately compete and remove yourself, pull yourself out of, I now need to nickel and dime, or be nickeled and dimed even, on every quote that I give because I'm competing with every other machine shop out there who must win by a penny or a nickel or a dime. Now I can do things that other people can't do, or I can do them at speeds and rates that other people can't do. Now I'm getting more bids. Now I'm winning more jobs. Now I'm growing my shop quicker. All of these things matter. Now, I don't even think I'm halfway through my slides and I just saw the 10-minute thing come up. And I'm going to try and do a little bit of a Q&A at the end of this because I do talk a lot. Manufacturing job market. There are more jobs than people to fill. We know this. We know this information. It becomes redundant to have to say it over and over and over again. Why work in a cubicle? I mean, some people love a cubicle. Don't get me wrong. I travel the world. I can't even stand still. I move the podium. Kevin and I I'm tripping over the cable. But some people love a cubicle, and that's okay. There's 8 billion people in the world, and it's important that we all recognize one another and appreciate everyone for exactly who they are, because we are different, and that's okay. If we were all the same, it'd be quite boring, actually. We'd all want to do the same thing, live in the same places. But I do agree with it. Let's make something real. Let's make something that matters. Let's make something tangible. Let's lay in bed at night and be proud of ourselves. Go, I can sleep well tonight. I did something good. I did something for my family. I did something for my community. Manufacturing, what I've realized, it supports families. It supports communities. It supports states. It supports economies. And it supports the nation. The most stable countries in the world right now, when you think of the most stable countries in the world, the backbone of it is manufacturing. You think of your Japans, your Koreas, your Germanys, your Taiwans. These countries, their backbone is manufacturing. The leaders. We're a leader. We've always been a leader. Currently, the amount we produce is second in the world, but we are a leader, and we can come back to number one again. It's built. It's built into what we're doing. It's built into our DNA. We're resilient people. Cutting edge shops. I'm starting to speak quickly and go through the slides quickly because of my time, and I do want to leave a little bit of Q&A. And looks like people are starting to finish up their food, so thanks for sticking around. I must be doing okay. Cutting edge shops. What have I seen? Been around the world. Thousands of shops all over the place. We've talked about this a little bit. Cutting edge shops, they realize that a cutting tool specific to a job will make them more money, although it spends more money than a cutting tool that is generic and can be a do-all. I know some people will disagree with that, but it matters. Material matters, jobs matter, specifics matter. Getting with your local community and associations like this matters. Learning from people who have failed matters. Understanding that coolant can change everything in your shop. I was the machinist that never changed my coolant. In fact, I would walk away from my machine after filling it up. I'd look at my coolant hose and nothing was coming out because I had 90% of chips in my coolant bed and a whole bunch of slime that I didn't want to touch. I was that crap machinist that did that from time to time. Coolant can change the way that your cutting tools work, your finishes work, reduce secondary operations, and everything in between. Machine monitoring. I don't know how many people have it, but to remove tribal knowledge and understand how your shop actually works can be more beneficial than you might imagine if you've not implemented machine monitoring, AI, ERPs, front and back end automation that allows you to help you understand how to quote, how much to quote, not to underquote. Don't sell yourself short. What's the point of working hard for no profit? Make sure you're doing it correctly. All of this implemented is the cutting edge. It doesn't just mean when I walk through an automotive facility and all of these robots, and I don't see any humans doing all the work and lasers going, and yes, that's cutting edge, but you can be cutting edge as a job shop by understanding how technology works, by coming to shows like this, by speaking with people like Kevin, by speaking with your peers here, by going to trade shows, by going online. The information is out there. The key is, and this is something I utilize a lot, If this is your comfort zone, whether it be manufacturing or life, and you decide to leave your comfort zone, it's scary. You come back to your comfort zone, but then you do it again. And what I've realized through my travels around the world and being uncomfortable almost all the time is that my comfort zone is now here. So all the things that were uncomfortable are actually comfortable now. So we must break an end mill. We must try a new coolant. We must try and fail at machine monitoring. We must figure out which one's best. In order to do more, to do better, to attract people, to attract the next generation, cleanliness, air filtration, technology, that's how you get sexy. That's how you get fun. Is you let people breathe in your shop. You let people tinker and play and get creative. Let the cobots and robots and automation do the dull, dirty, dangerous. Get back to the creativity. That's what makes a shop cutting edge. Not necessarily because they've spent $1 billion, which does make it cutting edge, but doesn't necessarily. You as a job shop, 5 employees, 10 employees, 20 employees, you can make yourself cutting edge by understanding how technology works because it's evolving every single day. Now it's moving. That's great. Should have pushed that a long time ago. Spirit Aero Systems. It's a cool photo. I didn't make this PowerPoint, by the way, but I understand how it works. Spirit Aero Systems, largest Tier 1 aerospace facility in the entire world. That was a fun experience, but we don't need to talk about that. Benefits of automation. We've already talked about that. CNC for the future. Reshoring the race back home. I want to talk real quickly about this because I want to inspire you folks to realize that it's not just a buzzword. It is actually happening. The Reshoring Initiative has been happening. It is not just us talking about it. It's not just us preaching about it. If you notice here, from 2012, 2022, it has gone up. We have paid attention to reshoring. We have understood that we need to get it back, and we are. Again, when I asked everyone to raise their hands and say, if we brought it all back now, do we have the infrastructure to take care of all of the reshoring? Nobody raised their hands, which is brilliant because I wouldn't have either, and not that that makes you a winner because I get a lot of things wrong, but it's true. But what about nearshoring? Everyone know about nearshoring? What about our Canada? What about our Mexico? Did you know Mexico's been #1 in the entire world? In the top 10 in the entire world in manufacturing for the last 20 years? Did you know they're #3 or 4 in automotive for the last 10 years? Did you know that China just invested in Mexico to make their cars? Because the average wage in Mexico is $4 less expensive than the average wage in China. Did you know there's no oceans in between Mexico, Canada, the US, in working together? Did you know that we have the same rules and regulations? What about all those tariffs that are so freaking annoying? Not in Mexico, not in Canada. So if we can't do it all here in the US, which made in the USA again, bring it back. Hell yeah, let's do that first. We can't do it all. Let's rely on our friends. Costa Rica's doing great. Colombia's doing great. Even Puerto Rico doing a wonderful job. But Mexico is that backbone. They invest every day in their people, all the time. All the time. Opportunities in the industry today, we all know, that's everywhere. Anything. Invite all your friends. You want to work in warehousing, you want to work in accounting, you want to work in sales, you want to work in engineering. They exist all over the place. Opportunity is everywhere. Q&A. I made it. How'd I do? Well, I got 1 minute left? Yeah, we're cut. No Q&A time? All right, no Q&A time. I apologize. If you have any questions about this long-winded, all over the place keynote, please pull me aside. I'd like to believe that I'm as friendly as I look like up here. Happy to talk to all of you. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. I hope you stayed, not just for the food and the drinks that Kevin has promised, but also for what we discussed today. So again, give yourselves a round of applause. You're all absolutely incredible. And thank you for doing what you do.